Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, staring at the view screen with his arms crossed. The coffee in his mug had gone cold an hour ago, but he didn't care. What he was looking at was far more interesting than coffee. "How many ships did you say?" Jake asked, not taking his eyes off the screen. Lieutenant Amy Parker checked her console again. Her fingers moved quickly across the display. "I count 3,042 vessels, Captain. Give or take a few dozen. They're still coming through the jump point." Danny Chen whistled from the tactical station. He was a young officer with sharp eyes and quick reflexes. "That's a lot of ships. Should we be worried?" Jake shrugged. "Depends. Are they shooting at us?" "Not yet," Danny said with a grin. The alien fleet had appeared at the edge of human space just 3 hours ago. They came through a quantum tunnel in a massive wave of metal and energy. The ships were arranged in perfect geometric patterns, like someone had used a ruler to position each one. It was impressive, Jake had to admit. Whoever these aliens were, they liked showing off. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Amy said. She pressed a button and the ship's translation system activated. "It's audio and visual. Should I put it on screen?" "Might as well. Let's see who came to visit." The view screen changed. The alien fleet disappeared, replaced by the face of something that looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. Its skin was dark purple and covered in plates of natural armor. 4 eyes blinked at different times, and its mouth had too many teeth. Behind it, Jake could see other aliens standing at attention, all wearing elaborate armor covered in spikes and symbols. "Primitive species of the planet you call Earth," the alien said. The translation made its voice sound deep and threatening. "I am Supreme Commander Vexitharan, the Eternal Fist of Dominion, Master of the Void, Conqueror of 847 star systems." Jake glanced at Amy. She was trying very hard not to smile. The alien continued. "You stand before the might of the Zalthoran Imperium, the greatest power this galaxy has ever known. For 3,000 of your years, we have brought order to the chaos of space. We have conquered worlds beyond counting. We have crushed resistance wherever we found it." "Is this guy reading from a script?" Danny whispered. "Shh," Jake said. But he was grinning now, too. "You will submit to Imperial rule," Vexitharan declared. "You will pay tribute to the Imperium. You will provide 10% of your population to serve in our labor forces. You will abandon your weapons and your pride. You have 48 of your hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why 847 civilizations chose to kneel rather than fight." The screen changed again. Now it showed footage of the Zalthoran fleet attacking other worlds. Cities burned. Alien creatures that looked nothing like humans ran in panic. Ships exploded in silent flashes of light. Throughout it all, Zalthoran ships fired their weapons in synchronized patterns, each blast timed to look as dramatic as possible. "They really like their special effects," Lisa Hamilton said from the science station. She was the ship's science officer, a woman with red hair and a sharp mind. "Captain, I'm scanning their fleet. Permission to speak?" "Go ahead, Lisa." "Their ships are using fusion drives. We stopped using those 80 years ago. Their energy weapons appear to be plasma-based, which is, well, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. And unless I'm reading this wrong, they're still using radio communications between ships." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Radio? Really? Really?" On the screen, Vexitharan had returned. "This is your only warning, humans. Submit or be destroyed. We have never been defeated. We have never been denied. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. The bridge was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then Amy snorted. She tried to cover it with her hand, but it was too late. Danny started chuckling. Lisa shook her head with a smile. Kevin Brooks, the chief engineer who had just walked onto the bridge, looked confused. "What did I miss?" Kevin asked. "The scary aliens are here to conquer us," Danny said, still laughing. Except they're using technology my grandfather would have called outdated. And they have titles, Amy added, wiping tears from her eyes. The Eternal Fist of Dominion. Master of the Void, Lisa said in a dramatic voice. Jake put his hand over his face. He was trying to stay professional, really trying, but it was impossible. The laugh started deep in his chest and bubbled up. Within seconds, the entire bridge crew was laughing. Okay, Jake said, finally getting control of himself. Let's be professional here. Amy, open a channel to Earth Command. Let them know we have visitors. Send them all the scan data Lisa collected. Yes, sir, Amy said, still grinning. Danny, keep monitoring their fleet. I want to know if they so much as charge a weapon. On it, Captain. Lisa, keep scanning. I want to know everything about their technology. Already working on it, Lisa said. Captain, if it helps, I'm also detecting some interesting design flaws in their hull structure. These ships look intimidating, but they're not built for heavy combat. Too many decorative elements, not enough actual armor. Kevin laughed. They built their warships to look scary instead of to actually fight? Apparently, Lisa said. Jake sat down in his command chair and picked up his cold coffee. He took a sip and grimaced. Well, this is going to be an interesting day. Amy, prepare a response to our new friends. What should I tell them, sir? Jake thought about it for a moment. Tell them we received their message. Tell them we appreciate them traveling all this way. And tell them we'll get back to them soon with our answer. That's it? Amy asked. That's it. Keep it polite. Keep it simple. Let's not start a war because we laughed at their scary speech. Even though it was pretty funny, Danny added. Even though it was hilarious, Jake agreed. But let's keep that to ourselves for now. Send the message, Amy. As Amy worked on the transmission, Jake looked back at the view screen. The Zalthoran fleet hung in space like a dark cloud, thousands of ships waiting for Earth's response. They looked dangerous. They probably were dangerous to someone, just not to humans. Jake wondered how long it had been since the Zalthorans had met someone who wasn't afraid of them. He had a feeling they were about to learn an important lesson about picking fights. This was going to be interesting indeed. Supreme Commander Vexatheran stood in the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Retribution. His 4 eyes stared at the holographic display showing the small human ship. The vessel was tiny compared to his fleet, barely worth noticing. Yet something about the situation felt wrong. Sub-Commander Krell, Vexatheran said, his voice carrying across the silent bridge. Have the humans responded? Krell stepped forward, his armor clinking with each movement. He was younger than Vexatheran, but had served in 17 successful conquests. Yes, Supreme Commander. The translation has been verified 3 times. And? They said they received our message. They thanked us for traveling to meet them. They said they will provide an answer soon. Vexatheran's claws tapped against the command throne. That is all? That is all, Supreme Commander. The commander's tail lashed back and forth, a sign of confusion among his species. In 3,000 years of conquest, in 847 successful invasions, no species had ever responded with such casual politeness. They either surrendered immediately or started shooting. They begged or they fought. They never just said thank you and asked for time to think. Play the audio from their bridge, Vexatheran ordered. During our transmission. A technician worked the controls. The sounds of the human bridge filled the command center. For a moment there was silence. Then came the sound. It was unmistakable. The humans were laughing. That must be a translation error, Vexatheran said, though his voice held doubt. Negative, Supreme Commander, the technician said, checking his instruments nervously. The translation matrix is functioning perfectly. That sound is human laughter. They found our ultimatum amusing. The bridge fell silent. Every Zalthoran present knew what this meant, even if they didn't want to believe it. Laughter was not fear. Laughter was not respect. Laughter was the opposite of everything the Imperium represented. "This is a psychological tactic," Krell said firmly. "They are attempting to appear brave. It is a bluff, Supreme Commander. They must be terrified." "Perhaps," Vex Theron said, but he didn't sound convinced. "We should send another message," Krell suggested. "Show them more of our power. Show them what happens to those who refuse the Imperium." Vex Theron considered this. His pride demanded action. The humans had insulted the Empire with their laughter, even if they hadn't meant to. "Prepare the recordings from the conquest of Theta Prime. Show them what happens to defiant species." "At once, Supreme Commander." The second transmission was prepared carefully. It showed the Zalthoran fleet destroying orbital stations. It showed armies marching through burning cities. It showed the moment when the leaders of Theta Prime had finally knelt and begged for mercy. The message ended with Vex Theron's most threatening declaration, promising to unleash the dread fleet of infinite sorrow if the humans continued to resist. The transmission was sent. Vex Theron waited, confident that this time the humans would understand their situation. On the bridge of Aurora's edge, the crew watched the second message. Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, trying his best to maintain a professional expression. It wasn't working. "The dread fleet of infinite sorrow," Danny said slowly, letting each word hang in the air. "Did I hear that right?" "You did," Amy confirmed, reading from her console. "That's the actual translation, not an error." "Who names their fleet that?" Kevin asked, walking onto the bridge with a datapad. "It sounds like something from a bad movie." "A really bad movie," Lisa agreed. She was studying the tactical footage the Zalthorans had sent. "Captain, I've analyzed their combat tactics from these recordings. I have concerns." "What kind of concerns?" Jake asked. "The bad kind," Lisa said. "Look at this." She put the footage on the main screen. "This is their attack on Theta Prime's orbital defenses. Notice how they approach in these rigid formations. No variation in speed or angle, no attempt at unpredictable movement. They're flying in straight lines," Danny observed. "Exactly. Now watch what happens when the defenders fire back." Lisa fast-forwarded the footage. "See? The Zalthorans maintain formation even while taking hits. They don't break away. They don't adapt. They just keep flying forward until they overwhelm the enemy with numbers." "That's not tactics," Danny said. "That's just throwing bodies at the problem until it goes away." "And it's worked for them," Jake said. 847 times. "Because everyone they've fought has been weaker than them," Kevin pointed out. He held up his data pad. "I've been analyzing their ship design based on Lisa's scans. Captain, these vessels are at least 200 years behind our current technology. Maybe more." 200 years? Jake leaned forward. "At minimum. Their power generation is inefficient. Their weapons are slow to charge and recharge. Their shields appear to be basic electromagnetic barriers. We developed better shields a century ago." Kevin scrolled through his data. "And here's the interesting part. Their ships are huge, but most of that size is empty space and decorative hull plating. Our destroyers have more actual firepower than their battleships." Amy raised her hand like she was in school. "Captain, I have something to add. I've been listening to their communications. They're not encrypted." "Not encrypted at all?" Jake asked. "Not even a little bit. They're broadcasting everything in clear radio. I can hear their fleet commanders talking to each other. Should I not be doing that?" "Keep listening," Jake said immediately. "If they're going to broadcast their plans to everyone, we might as well pay attention. What are they saying?" "They're confused," Amy said, one hand on her earpiece. "They keep talking about our response. They don't understand why we're not afraid. One of their officers thinks we're too primitive to understand the threat. Another thinks it's a cultural thing, that maybe humans show fear by laughing." Danny laughed at that. "Oh, that's perfect." They think we're so dumb we don't know we should be scared. It's not entirely wrong, Lisa said with a slight smile. We are laughing at them, just not for the reason they think. Jake stood up and walked to the view screen. The Zalthoran fleet hung in space, thousands of ships arranged in those perfect geometric patterns. They looked impressive. They looked powerful. They looked like exactly what they were, a fleet designed to scare people who had never seen anything scarier. Amy, has Earth Command responded to our report? Jake asked. Yes, sir. Message came in 5 minutes ago. They want us to maintain position and keep monitoring the Zalthorans. The Defense Council is meeting now to discuss the situation. They've ordered all military vessels to full alert, but no aggressive actions. Smart. Danny, any change in the Zalthoran fleet? Negative, Captain. They're just sitting there, waiting for our answer, I guess. What should we tell them? Amy asked. Jake thought about it. The Zalthorans were dangerous, that much was clear. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had killed countless beings, but they had done it by bullying weaker species. They had never faced anyone who could fight back properly. Earth Command will want to handle the official response, Jake said, but we need to keep these aliens talking. Buy time for the diplomats and admirals to figure out what we're doing. Amy, send them another message. Tell them we're considering their offer carefully. Tell them such an important decision requires consultation with our leadership. Keep stringing them along? Amy asked. Exactly. Be polite, be respectful. Just don't actually give them an answer. As Amy composed the message, Jake returned to his command chair. He had a feeling this situation was going to get more complicated before it got simpler. The Zalthorans had made assumptions about humanity based on their experience with other species. They assumed humans would react like everyone else they'd conquered. They were going to learn that humans were different, very different. Admiral Ryan Cole sat at the head of the conference table in the Unified Defense Council chambers. Around him sat the most important military and civilian leaders on Earth. The mood in the room was tense, but not in the way one might expect when facing an alien invasion fleet. Let me make sure I understand correctly, Admiral Cole said, looking at the holographic display floating above the table. This Zalthoran Empire has conquered 847 star systems. They have a fleet of over 3,000 warships currently at our doorstep. They've given us 48 hours to surrender, and our assessment is that they're not actually a threat? Commander Megan Foster, head of Defense Intelligence, nodded. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. That's correct, Admiral. Based on the scans from Captain Morrison's ship and additional data from our deep space monitoring stations, the Zalthoran fleet is technologically inferior to our forces in every measurable category. How inferior? Asked Ambassador Kate Sullivan. She was Earth's chief diplomat, a woman known for solving problems with words instead of weapons. Megan pulled up a comparison chart. Their ships are slower than ours by a factor of 3. Their weapons have less than half the range and power of ours. Their shields can't withstand sustained fire from our modern weaponry. Their sensors are outdated. Their communications are unencrypted and slow. She paused. Admiral, if we wanted to, we could destroy their entire fleet with less than 30 of our warships. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The scary alien invasion was only scary if you didn't have the ability to fight back. Then why have they conquered so many systems? Asked General Patricia Woods, head of the Marine Corps. She was a combat veteran who had fought in the colony wars. Because everyone they've conquered was weaker than them, Megan explained. We've analyzed the tactical footage they sent. Every species they've subdued was either pre-industrial or in the early stages of space exploration. They've never fought a peer military power. They've been the biggest fish in a pond of minnows. Until now, Admiral Cole said quietly. Until now, Megan agreed. Kate Sullivan leaned forward. So we have options. We could destroy them. We could scare them away. Or we could try diplomacy. What's our recommended course of action? That depends on our goals, Megan said. If we just want them gone, we show them our teeth and they'll run. But they'll still be out there, still conquering weaker species. The problem won't be solved, just postponed. What about the species they've already conquered? General Woods asked. The 847 systems under their control. What happens to those people? That's the question, isn't it? Kate said. If we destroy the Zalthoran fleet, their empire might collapse. That could free those systems, or it could create chaos and civil war across hundreds of worlds. If we just scare them away, nothing changes for those conquered species. Admiral Cole rubbed his temples. He had commanded fleets in war and in peace. He had made hard decisions before, but this was different. We need a third option. I might have one, Kate said. She stood and walked to the holographic display. The Zalthorans are bullies. They've built their entire civilization on intimidation and overwhelming force, but they've never been on the receiving end of that equation. They don't know what it's like to be the weaker party. You want to teach them a lesson? General Woods asked. I want to give them perspective, Kate corrected. Show them what they really are. Show them how far behind they've fallen technologically. Make them understand that their empire is built on a foundation of picking on species that couldn't defend themselves. And how do we do that without starting a war? Admiral Cole asked. Kate smiled. We invite them to a demonstration. We show them our capabilities, not in combat, but in a controlled environment. Let them see what humanity can do. Let them understand that if we wanted to destroy them, we could do it easily. Then we offer them a choice. What kind of choice? Megan asked. Change or fight. They can start reforming their empire, giving autonomy to the species they've conquered, and work with us to become something better than a band of bullies. Or they can fight us and lose everything. Kate looked around the table. But we make it clear that we'd prefer the first option. We're not interested in being conquerors ourselves. General Woods frowned. That's risky. What if they choose to fight? Then we'll win, Megan said simply. But Ambassador Sullivan is right. Destroying them doesn't solve the bigger problem. It just creates a power vacuum and leaves hundreds of enslaved species without leadership or support. If we can reform the Zalthorans instead of destroying them, we might actually do some good. Admiral Cole considered this. It was bold. It was unusual. It was also the most humane option on the table. Captain Morrison and his crew are still in position? Yes, sir, Megan confirmed. Good. We'll use them for the initial contact. Kate, I want you to draft a formal invitation to this Supreme Commander. Make it polite, but firm. We're not asking permission. We're offering an opportunity. Understood, Kate said. Megan, I want a full analysis of the Zalthoran Empire's structure. Who else is in their chain of command? What's their government like? Are there factions we can work with? I'll have it on your desk in 6 hours, Megan promised. General Woods, I want contingency plans in case this goes badly. If they attack, I want to be ready to protect our people and minimize casualties on both sides. Yes, sir, Woods said crisply. Admiral Cole stood and everyone else stood with him. We're about to do something unprecedented. We're going to try to reform an alien empire through demonstration and diplomacy. If this works, we might prevent future conflicts and free hundreds of worlds. If it fails, we'll be ready to protect ourselves. Either way, humanity is about to make its mark on the galactic stage. Questions? Kate raised her hand. What if they just refuse to engage with us? What if they take their fleet and leave? Then we follow them, Admiral Cole said. We can't let them continue conquering defenseless species now that we know about them. One way or another, the Zalthoran Empire's days of easy conquest are over. 6 hours later, Jake Morrison received new orders from Earth Command. He read them twice to make sure he understood correctly. They want us to do what? Danny asked, reading over Jake's shoulder. Invite the Zalthorans to a demonstration of human military capabilities, Jake read aloud. Host their leadership at Sentinel Prime Orbital Station, show them our technology, then offer them a choice between reform and conflict. Amy whistled. That's bold. That's insane, Kevin said. That's brilliant, Lisa corrected. Think about it. These aliens have never lost. They've never even been challenged. Showing them how outmatched they are might make them reconsider their entire approach to galactic politics. Or it might make them attack us out of pride, Danny pointed out. That's why we're doing the demonstration at Sentinel Prime, Jake said. It's one of our most heavily defended installations. If they try anything, we'll have plenty of backup. So we're really doing this? Amy asked. Jake looked at his crew. They had been together for 3 years, exploring the edges of human space. They had discovered new worlds, made first contact with 2 peaceful species, and survived more than one close call with natural dangers. This was different. This was potentially historic. Yes, Jake said. We're really doing this. Amy, compose a message to Supreme Commander Vexatheron. Tell him that humanity has considered his ultimatum carefully. Tell him we would like to invite him and his senior staff to a cultural exchange and demonstration. Make it sound like an honor, not a threat. A demonstration of what exactly? Amy asked. Jake smiled. Human capabilities. Let's see if we can teach an old empire some new tricks. Supreme Commander Vex Theron stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the deck of Sentinel Prime Orbital Station. His ceremonial armor clinked with each movement, and his honor guard followed close behind. Sub-Commander Krell walked at his right side, hand never far from his weapon. The human greeting party waited nearby, and Vexatheron felt his first moment of true confusion. They wore simple uniforms without decoration, no armor, no visible weapons, no display of military might whatsoever. The leader, a human female with short blonde hair, stepped forward with a smile. Supreme Commander Vexatheron, she said with a slight bow. Welcome to Sentinel Prime. I'm Station Chief Nicole Warren. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Vexatheron studied her carefully. In his 3,000 years of military service, he had seen countless enemy leaders. They were always either afraid or angry. This human seemed neither. She seemed genuinely pleased to meet him. Your message was unusual, Vexatheron said, his translation device making his voice sound less threatening than he preferred. You did not surrender. You did not attack. You invited us to observe your capabilities. That's correct, Nicole said. We thought it would be more productive than fighting. Would you like some coffee? It's a human beverage, quite popular. Vexatheron looked at Krell. His subordinate looked as confused as he felt. I did not come here for refreshments. I came to see this demonstration. Of course, Nicole said, unfazed by his abrupt tone. Lieutenant Amy Parker will be your guide. She'll show you what humanity has achieved. Please, follow me. They walked through the station's corridors. Vexatheron noticed everything. The walls were clean but functional. The crew members they passed wore casual duty uniforms and nodded politely at the armed Zalthoran delegation. No one seemed alarmed by their presence. It was disturbing in its normality. They arrived at an observation deck overlooking a vast space. Below, Vexatheron could see dozens of human warships at dock. They were smaller than Zalthoran vessels, sleeker, with fewer decorative elements. They looked fast. This is our primary staging area, Amy explained. She was young, possibly not even 30 cycles old by Zalthoran standards. We have 47 ships currently stationed here. Shall we begin the demonstration? Proceed, Vexatheron said stiffly. Amy pressed a control on her wrist device. Matt, we're ready. A human male's voice came through the speakers. Starting with basic defensive capabilities, activating target drones. Vexatheron watched as small objects appeared on the view screen, moving rapidly toward one of the docked human destroyers. He counted them. 500 targets, moving at high speed from multiple directions. This simulates a missile swarm attack, Amy explained. Watch the destroyer, please. The human ship didn't move. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Vex's Tharans saw brief flashes of light so fast they were barely visible. The display showed numbers counting down: 500, 400, 300, 200, 100, 0. All targets eliminated in 1.4 seconds, Amy said casually. Our point defense systems track and eliminate threats faster than most species can detect them. The Zalthoran sensor suite, for example, would register approximately 3 targets destroyed per second. We destroyed over 300. Krell leaned close to Vex Tharan. That must be an exaggeration, Supreme Commander. No weapon system is that fast. Dr. Lisa Hamilton is next, Amy said. She'll explain our communication systems. A human female with red hair appeared on another screen. Hello, Commander. I'm currently on a research vessel near the colony of Nova Terra. That's approximately 12 light-years from Sentinel Prime. We're having this conversation in real time through quantum entanglement communication, no delay, instant communication across any distance. Vex Tharan felt something cold settle in his core. Impossible. Faster-than-light communication is theoretical. It was theoretical, Lisa said with a smile. We solved it 83 years ago. How do the Zalthorans communicate between ships? Radio transmission, Krell said automatically, then seemed to realize he had admitted a weakness. Radio has its place, Lisa said kindly, but in combat, the delay between sending orders and receiving them can be fatal. Our fleet commanders can coordinate ships across entire star systems with no lag time. The next demonstration was worse. Lieutenant Danny Chen showed them a training exercise where a single human frigate used stealth technology to approach a mock enemy fleet undetected. The frigate destroyed 12 ships before the others even knew it was there. Our stealth systems bend light and radiation around the hull, Danny explained. We're effectively invisible to conventional sensors. Can Zalthoran ships detect stealth vessels? No, Vex Tharan said quietly. He didn't bother to lie. This next part is from our engineering division, Amy said. She seemed genuinely enthusiastic, like a teacher showing off a student's project. Matt Robinson will demonstrate our power generation capabilities. Matt appeared on screen, standing in what looked like an engine room. The Zalthorans use fusion reactors, correct? Deuterium-tritium fusion, if our scans are accurate. That is correct, Vex Tharan said. We use antimatter, Matt said. He held up a small container no bigger than his fist. This contains enough antimatter to power a city for a year or a warship for 6 months. Our reactors are approximately 200 times more efficient than fusion. They're also smaller, which means we can fit more systems into a smaller hull. How long have you had this technology? Krell asked, his voice strained. Antimatter containment? About 95 years. Antimatter production became economically viable about 60 years ago. Nicole Warren stepped forward. Commander Vex Tharan, I think it's time we discussed some facts. Humanity has been exploring space for 140 years. We've had faster-than-light travel for 120 years. We've colonized 34 star systems. Everything your empire has built over 3,000 years, we accomplished in roughly a century. You're saying we're primitive, Vex Tharan said. It wasn't a question. I'm saying you've been very successful against weaker opponents, Nicole corrected. But you've never faced a species with equivalent or superior technology. You've never had to adapt, to innovate, to improve. You've been strong enough that you didn't have to get better. Vex Tharan looked out at the human fleet. 47 ships, such a small number. His fleet had thousands. But numbers didn't matter if those numbers were obsolete. The demonstration in the message, Vex Tharan said slowly. The one where your single frigate defeated a mock fleet. How many Zalthoran ships could one human frigate destroy? Amy glanced at Nicole, who nodded. Based on simulations using your technology specifications? Approximately 15 to 20 ships before your fleet adapted to the threat. Possibly more if the frigate maintained stealth and continued hit-and-run attacks. And how many frigates do you have? Krell asked. In total? About 800, I think, Amy said. Plus destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and carriers. We can provide exact numbers if you want. Vexatheron felt his pride crumbling like old stone. His mighty fleet, the terror of 847 systems, was obsolete. The humans could destroy them all if they chose to. The only reason his fleet still existed was because the humans had decided not to fight. Why? Vexatheron asked. Why show us this? Why not simply destroy us? You could have attacked while we waited for your surrender. We would have been helpless. Nicole's expression softened. Because destroying you doesn't solve the real problem, Commander. Your empire controls hundreds of star systems. Hundreds of species live under Zalthoran rule. If we destroyed your fleet, what would happen to them? Civil war? Chaos? More suffering? We are not the villains of this story, Vexatheron said, but his voice lacked conviction. Aren't you? Nicole asked gently. You've conquered 847 systems. How many of those conquests were invited? How many of those species wanted to join your empire? None, Vexatheron admitted. But that is the way of the galaxy. The strong rule, the weak serve. That was the way of the galaxy, Nicole corrected. Now humanity is here, and we're strong enough that we don't have to rule anyone. We can choose a different path. Vexatheron looked at his honor guard, at Krell, at the human ships hanging in space beyond the viewport. He thought of his 3,000 years of service, his 847 victories, his empire that now seemed like nothing more than a house of cards waiting for a strong wind. What do you want from us? He asked finally. The conference room was smaller than Vexatheron expected. He sat on one side of the table with Krell and two other senior officers. Across from him sat Admiral Ryan Cole, Ambassador Kate Sullivan, and Station Chief Nicole Warren. Between them was a holographic display showing maps of both human and Zalthoran space. We want change, Kate said simply. Real change, not just promises. Vexatheron looked at the map. His empire covered so much space, represented by purple indicators on the display, hundreds of systems, thousands of worlds, trillions of beings under Zalthoran rule. It was the achievement of 3,000 years, and now these humans wanted to take it apart. You want us to surrender our empire, Vexatheron said bitterly. No, Admiral Cole said firmly. We want you to transform it. There's a difference. Explain, Vexatheron commanded, then caught himself. He had no authority here. These humans could destroy his fleet with a thought. Please, he added quietly. Kate pulled up information on the display. Your empire controls 847 systems. Based on our intelligence, approximately 200 different species live under Zalthoran rule. Most were conquered. None were given a choice. That has to end. If we release them, there will be chaos, Krell protested. These species cannot govern themselves. They need order. They need structure. They need freedom, Kate countered. But we're not suggesting you abandon them all at once. We're suggesting a transition, a gradual process of granting autonomy while providing support and guidance. You're describing a federation, not an empire, Vexatheron said. Exactly, Admiral Cole said. Transform the Zalthoran Empire into the Zalthoran Federation. Instead of conquered subjects, you'd have allied partners. Instead of ruling through fear, you'd lead through cooperation. Why would they cooperate with us? Vexatheron asked. We conquered them. They hate us. Some will, Kate admitted. But many might see the value in a voluntary association, especially if you offer them something valuable in return for their cooperation. Such as technology, Nicole said, protection, trade, the same things any alliance offers. Plus, humanity would help. We could provide technological assistance, help establish new governments, mediate disputes. We're not asking you to do this alone. Vexatheron studied the humans. Their offer seemed genuine, but it made no sense. Why would you help us? We came to conquer you. We threatened your world. Kate smiled slightly. Because you're not actually evil, Commander. You're just a product of your culture and your history. The Zalthorans became conquerors because it worked. No one ever showed you a better way because no one was strong enough to challenge you. Now we are, and we're offering you a choice. What choice? Vexatheran asked, though he suspected he knew. Admiral Cole leaned forward. Choice 1. You reject our offer. You take your fleet and leave human space. We'll follow you. Every time you try to conquer another world, we'll be there to stop you. Eventually, you'll either have to fight us or give up conquest anyway. A lot of people will die in the process, both Zalthoran and others. The Admiral paused, letting that sink in. Choice 2. You work with us. We help you transform your empire into something better. It won't be easy. It won't be fast. Some of your people will resist. Some of the conquered species will refuse to forgive. But in 20 years, maybe 50, you could have something worth being proud of. A true federation of equals, not a collection of slaves. And if we fight you? Krell asked aggressively. If we decide that our way is correct and your way is weak? Then we'll destroy your fleet, Admiral Cole said without emotion. We'll do it quickly and efficiently. Then we'll still go to your conquered systems and offer them freedom. The end result will be the same, except you won't be alive to see it. The room fell silent. Vexatheran looked at his officers. Krell was angry, his pride wounded. The other two looked uncertain, afraid. They had all seen the demonstration. They knew humanity's words were backed by overwhelming power. This is not an easy choice, Vexatheran said finally. My entire species has built its identity around strength and conquest. You're asking us to become something different. We're asking you to become something better, Kate said gently. Commander, I've studied your history. Before the Zalthorans became conquerors, your species survived on a harsh world through cooperation and mutual support. Your ancient texts speak of honor and duty to the clan. Those values are still part of you. You don't have to be conquerors to be strong. Vexatheran looked at the holographic map again. All those worlds, all those species. He had spent his entire life enforcing Zalthoran rule, never questioning whether it was right. The humans had shown him a mirror, and he didn't like what he saw. I must consult with my government, Vexatheran said slowly. This decision affects my entire species. I cannot make it alone. Of course, Admiral Cole said. But, Commander, I need to be clear. We can give you time to make this decision, but we can't give you unlimited time. Every day you delay is another day that your empire continues to oppress others. We'll give you 1 month. After that, we'll need an answer. And if my government refuses? Vexatheran asked. Then we'll proceed without you, Kate said. We'll go to the conquered systems ourselves. We'll offer them protection and assistance in gaining independence. With or without Zalthoran cooperation, those species will be free. Vexatheran stood. His officers rose with him. You have given me much to think about, Admiral. Ambassador, Chief Warren, I will contact my government immediately. We hope you make the right choice, Kate said. As the Zalthoran delegation left the conference room, Krell moved close to Vexatheran. Supreme Commander, you cannot seriously consider their proposal. It would be the end of everything we've built. Everything we've built is already ended, Vexatheran said quietly. The humans have made that clear. The only question now is whether we adapt or die. 3 weeks later, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Aurora's Edge, reading the latest report from Earth Command. Amy looked over at him with curiosity. Well, she asked, what did they decide? The Zalthoran government has agreed to begin the transition process, Jake said with a slight smile. They're calling it the Great Reform. Over the next 20 years, They'll gradually grant autonomy to the conquered systems while establishing a new federal structure. That's incredible, Lisa said from the science station. I honestly didn't think they'd do it. They didn't have much choice, Danny pointed out. But still, choosing to change instead of fighting, that takes courage. Humanity is assigning diplomatic and technical teams to assist. Jake continued reading. We'll help establish new governments, provide technology transfers, and mediate disputes. It's going to be a massive undertaking. Do you think it'll work? Kevin asked. I don't know, Jake admitted. But it's better than the alternative. Better than war. Better than leaving those species to suffer under imperial rule. Amy smiled. We made them laugh. Then we made them think. Then we gave them a better option. Not bad for humanity's first major first contact. 1 year later, Lieutenant Amy Parker stood in what had once been the throne room of the Zalthoran Imperial Palace. Now it was a meeting hall for the Zalthoran Federation Council. Representatives from 53 different species sat in the chamber, discussing trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Supreme Commander Vexitharan, who now held the title of Federation Coordinator, approached her. He moved with less rigidity than before, his armor replaced by simpler robes. Lieutenant Parker, he greeted her. Thank you for coming. Coordinator, Amy replied with a respectful nod. The new council chambers look good, much more welcoming than the old throne room. It was Ambassador Sullivan's suggestion, Vexitharan said. She said that equals should meet in a circle, not with one being higher than the others. I am learning that she is wise in such matters. How is the transition going? Amy asked. Slowly, painfully, but it is going. Vexitharan looked around at the assembled representatives. Many of these species still hate us. They remember the conquest, they remember the oppression, but they are willing to try this new way, especially with human support. It'll get easier, Amy said. Give it time. Time, Vexitharan repeated. We had 3,000 years to build an empire. I suppose we can spend a few decades building something better. He paused. Lieutenant, may I ask you something? Of course. That first day when we sent our ultimatum, your crew laughed. I still do not fully understand why. Amy thought about how to explain it. We laughed because you were trying so hard to be terrifying, but to us, it just seemed overdone, like watching a bad actor in a play. All the dramatic speeches, the threatening names, the synchronized fleet formations. It was impressive, but it was also kind of silly. Silly, Vexitharan repeated the word slowly. The Zalthoran Imperium, terror of 847 systems, was silly. A little bit, yeah, Amy said honestly. But you're not silly anymore, Coordinator. Now you're trying to do something actually difficult, something brave. That's not funny at all. That's admirable. Vexitharan was quiet for a moment. Then, for the first time since Amy had met him, he made a sound that could almost be called a laugh. It was rough, unpracticed, but genuine. Perhaps, he said, there is value in not being taken too seriously. Perhaps that was our problem all along. We took ourselves so seriously that we forgot other perspectives existed. That's very philosophical of you, Amy said with a smile. I am learning from humans, Vexitharan said. You are strange teachers, but effective ones. Far away, on the Aurora's edge, Captain Jake Morrison looked at the latest star charts. New systems to explore, new species to meet, new wonders to discover. The Zalthoran situation had been resolved peacefully, but he knew there would be others. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was just beginning to make its mark. Plot a course for the Kepler sector, Jake ordered. Let's see what's out there. Yes, sir, Amy's replacement, a young officer named Peter Walsh, replied. Ready when you are? Then let's go, Jake said. The galaxy is full of bullies who haven't met anyone who can laugh at them yet. Might as well introduce ourselves. The Aurora's edge turned toward deep space and jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying humanity's message of strength through humor, of power through mercy, toward whatever waited in the darkness between the stars.